right, so I know I usually read first thing in the morning or early, but I had a meeting first thing, so I had to go to that meeting. And now I'm back. I'm here at the school, and I am waiting for parents to come and pick up some Chromebooks. So if you haven't got your Chromebook yet, come on by the north side and we will have it ready for you. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting for some customers, we're going to read some Harry Potter. All right. So, welcome to divination, said Professor Trelawney, who had seated herself in a winged armchair in front of the fire. My name is Professor Trelawney. You may not have seen me before. I find that descending too often into the hustle and bustle of the main school clouds my inner eye. Nobody said anything to this extraordinary pronouncement. Professor Trelawney delicately arranged her shawl and continued. So, you have chosen to study divination, the most difficult of all magical arts. I must warn you at the outset that if you do not have the sight, there's very little I'll be able to teach you. Books can only take you so far in this field. At these words, both Harry and Ron glanced grinning at Hermione, who looked startled at the news that books wouldn't be much help in this subject. Many witches and wizards, talented though they are in the area of loud bangs and smells and sudden disappearings, are yet unable to penetrate the veiled mysteries of the future. Professor Trelawney went on, her enormous gleaming eyes moving from face to nervous face. It is a gift granted to few. You boy, she said suddenly to Neville, who almost toppled off his poof. Is your grandmother well? I think so, said Neville. I wouldn't be too sure if I were you, dear, said Professor Trelawney, the firelight glinting on her long emerald earrings. Neville gulped. Professor Trelawney continued placidly. We will be covering the basic methods of divination this year. The first term will be devoted to reading the tea leaves. Next term, we shall progress to palmistry. By the way, my dear, she shot suddenly a look at Parvati Patel. Beware of the red-haired man. All right, I have some customers, so I'm going to pause, and then we'll continue when I get back. Okay. All right, I'm back. All right, Parvati gave a startled look at Ron, who was right behind her, and edged her chair away from him. In the second term, Professor Trelawney went on, we shall progress to the crystal ball. If we have finished with fire omens, that is. Unfortunately, classes will be disrupted in February by a nasty bout of flu. I myself will lose my voice, and around Easter, one of our number will leave us forever. A very tense silence followed this pronouncement, but Professor Trelawney seemed unaware of it. I wonder, dear, she said to Lavender Brown, who was nearest and shrank back in her chair, if you could pass me the large silver teapot. Lavender, looking relieved, stood up, took an enormous teapot from the shelf, and put it down on the table in front of Professor Trelawney. Thank you, my dear. Incidentally, that thing you're dreading, it'll happen on Friday, the 16th of October. Lavender trembled. Now, I want you all to divide into pairs. Collect a teacup from the shelf. Come to me. I will fill it. Then sit down, drink, and drink until only the dregs remain. Swill these around in the cup 3 times with the left hand. Then turn the cup upside down on its saucer. Wait for the last of the tea to drain away, then give your cup to your partner to read. You will interpret the patterns using the pages 5 and 6 of Unfogging the Future. I shall move among you, helping and instructing. Oh, and dear, she caught Neville by the arm as he made to stand. After you've broken your first cup, you would be so kind as to select one of the blue patterned ones. I'm rather attached to the pink. Sure enough, Neville had no sooner reached the shelf of teacups when there was a tinkle of breaking china. Professor Trelawney swept over to him holding a dustpan and a brush and said, "One of the blue ones, then. Dear, if you wouldn't mind, thank you." When Harry and Ron had had their teacups filled, they went back to their table and tried to drink the scalding tea quickly. They swilled the dregs around as Professor Trelawney had instructed, then drained the cups and swapped them down. "Right," said Ron as they both opened their books at pages 5 and 6. "What can you see in mine?" "Oh, a load of soggy brown stuff," said Harry. The heavily perfumed smoke in the room was making him feel sleepy and stupid. "Broaden your minds, my dears, and allow your eyes to see past the mundane." Professor Trelawney cried through the gloom. Harry tried to pull himself together. "Right. You've got a crooked sort of cross," he consulted with Unclogging the Future. "That means you're going to have trials and suffering. Sorry about that, but there's a thing that could be the sun. Hang on. That means great happiness. So you're going to suffer, but be very happy." "You need your inner eye tested, if you ask me," said Ron, and they both had to stifle their laughs as Professor Trelawney gazed in their direction. "My turn." Ron peered into Harry's teacup. His forehead wrinkled with effort. "There's a blob, a bit like a bowler hat," he said. "Maybe you're going to work for the Ministry of Magic." He turned the teacup the other way. "But this way, it looks more like an acorn. What's that?" He scanned his copy of Unfogging the Future. Are you good? Okay.
I just want to be in the video.
You can be in the video. Come say hello. I'm just reading some Harry Potter.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
A windfall, unexpected gold. Excellent. You can lend me some. And there's a thing here. He turned the cup again. That looks like an animal. Yeah? If that was its head, it looks like a hippo? No, a sheep. Professor Trelawney whirled around as Harry let out a snort of laughter. "Let me see that, my dear," she said reprovingly to Ron, sweeping over and snatching Harry's cup from him. Everyone went quiet to watch. Professor Trelawney was staring into the teacup, rotating it counterclockwise. "The falcon, my dear. You have a deadly enemy." "But everyone knows that," said Hermione in a loud whisper. Professor Trelawney stared at her. "Well, they do," said Hermione. "Everybody knows about Harry and you-know-who." Ron and Harry stared at her with a mixture of amazement and admiration. They had never heard Hermione speak to a teacher like that before. Professor Trelawney chose not to reply. She lowered her huge eyes into Harry's cups again and continued to turn it. The club. An attack. Dear, dear. This is not a happy cup. "I thought it was the bowler hat," said Ron sheepishly. "The skull. Danger in your path, my dear." Everyone was staring, transfixed at Professor Trelawney, who gave the cup a final turn, gasped, then screamed. There was another tinkle of breaking china. Neville had smashed his second cup. Professor Trelawney sank into a vacant armchair and her glittering hand at her heart, and her eyes closed. "My dear boy, my poor dear boy, no. It is kinder not to say, no, please don't ask me." "What is it, Professor?" said Dean Thomas at once. Everyone got to their feet, and slowly they crowded around Harry and Ron's table, pressing close to Professor Trelawney's chair to get a good look at Harry's cup. "My dear," Professor Trelawney's huge eyes opened dramatically, "you have the Grim." "What's that?" said Harry. He could tell that he wasn't the only one who didn't understand. Dean Thomas shrugged at him, and Lavender Brown looked puzzled, but nearly everybody else clapped their hands to their mouths in horror. The Grim, my dear, the Grim! Professor Trelawney, who looked shocked that Harry hadn't understood. The giant spectral dog that haunts churchyards. My dear boy, it is an omen, the worst omen of death. Harry's stomach lurched. The dog on the cover of Death Omens in Flourish and Blots. The dog in the shadows at Magnolia Crescent. Lavender Brown clapped her hand to her mouth, too. Everyone was looking at Harry. Everyone except Hermione, who had gotten up and moved around to the back of Professor Trelawney's chair. I don't think it looks like a Grim, she said flatly. Professor Trelawney surveyed Hermione with a mounting dislike. You'll forgive me for saying so, my dear, but I perceive very little aura around you, very little receptivity to the renaissance of the future. All right, that's all we have for today. Stay tuned for tomorrow for more Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Don't forget to be awesome.